To be humble, to be kind, it is a giving of the peace in your mind. To a stranger, to a friend, to give in such a way that has no end. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other and nothing more. And to be bold, to be brave, it is a thinking that the heart can still be saved. And the darkness can come quick, the danger's in the anger and in the hanging on to it. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other, nothing more. And tell me what it is that you see, a world that's full of endless possibilities. And heroes don't look like they used to, they look like you do. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other, nothing more. We are how we treat each other, nothing more. We are how we treat each other.
Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Berkeley. I'm Reverend Marcus Liefert and so glad to be with you on this beautiful spring day. No matter who you are or how you make your living, no matter whom you love or how you experience the sacred, we hope that you will feel welcome with us here. If you're visiting with us for the first time or still getting to know the congregation, there's a welcome table out in the atrium where folks are happy to answer your questions. There's a special Q&A today right after the service with Charis Domodor, our connections coordinator, our becoming our programs and membership coordinator. If you want to learn more, stick around with her in the fireside room after the service. Everyone's always invited to come all the way across the atrium to the social hall to join for a meal, for conversation. If there's something on your heart this morning that you would like lifted up in our service, if there's a joy or a sorrow, a grief or a gratitude you'd like read aloud, you can write it in the memory book there, or simply light a candle for a silent memory or prayer. We are in the midst of our worship series on living under the rainbow sign, understanding beauty, artistic, creative practice as an moral organizing principle. And today we'll be exploring the benefits, the freedom in limitation. So I hope that you will enjoy worshiping in limitation today, and we're going to try and limit our service to a shorter time frame because we have a congregational meeting following. So please, let's rise in body or spirit and sing together our first hymn, There's a River Flowing in My Soul.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my mind, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing. There's a river flowing. There's a river flowing in my soul.
Good morning. I'm Don Close, and I'm your worship associate today. As we light our chalice, we begin our service, and we remind ourselves that our church occupies land in Huchiun, the unceded territory of the Chochenyo-speaking Ohlone people. May we have the humility and courage to do our part to restore what has been broken, and the wisdom to live in a new solidarity with indigenous communities and the earth. Let us kindle our chalice flame with these words by Alexis Engelbrecht. The space in which you stand was once empty. Now it is full with your presence. This space, this sanctuary that now includes you and me, this is holy ground, as we each, with our inherent worth and dignity, stand upon it. What might we create together? What might we breathe into life with our words and acts? What might we be for one another? What might we be for our community? This is no small, insignificant act, us being here together. Indeed, this is a space full of potential, and it is good to be here with you. Now would you join me in saying our covenant? Love guides this church. The quest for truth and justice is its common purpose. To give thanks, listen deeply, speak with care, honor our differences, and seek and grant forgiveness. These things we covenant with one another.
Got a story to share this morning, and I wonder if anybody wants to come join me up on the steps, young of age or young of heart. Come on down, and I'm going to tell you a story that comes from a few places, a folktale coming from West Africa and Latin America, a folktale about Rabbit who had a wish. Rabbit wished to be big and powerful. Have any of you ever wished to be big and powerful? Anything ever happened in your lives where you're like, I wish I could just be a little bit more big and powerful? Oh, yes, Ariel, yes. Yes, yeah, a few of us. Well, Rabbit wanted to be big like elephant, or maybe tall like giraffe, or maybe strong like rhino. But Rabbit was not. And this was actually even before Rabbit had even big, long ears. Everything about Rabbit was small. Small little body, small little paws, small little ears, small fur. Everything was small. So Rabbit went to Earth Spirit and said, Earth Spirit, could I please be big? I just want to be big and strong like elephant or giraffe or rhino. Could I please be big and powerful? And Earth Spirit said, but Rabbit, you're fast and clever. You're so smart. Because there's all these stories. You've heard some stories about Rabbit tricking other animals, right? Have you heard stories about that? A lot of stories about Rabbit was so clever. Rabbit, she could trick any animal all around. But she begged and begged and pleaded, and so Earth Spirit said, okay, Rabbit, if you want to be big and powerful, if you want me to grant your wish, I just need you to get two things. Get me the whisker of a lion and the tail feather of an eagle. And Rabbit thought, how am I going to get... It's because of those big animals that chase and want to eat me that I want to be big and powerful. How am I going to get these things from them? But she thought, and she really was very clever. So she thought, and she made a plan. She said, okay. She went up to Lion. And Lion said, breakfast. And Rabbit said, wait, hold on. Because if you just take one whisker off of your face, it'll be a magic whisker, and you poke me with it, it'll make two of me, and then you can have double the breakfast. And Lion was a little skeptical, like, I don't know about this. But Rabbit was very convincing because she was very clever. She said, just try it. What have you got to lose? If it doesn't work, you can always eat me afterward. And Lion said, okay. And so Lion plucked one whisker and poked Rabbit with it, and nothing happened. And Rabbit said, well, maybe you're not doing it right. Here, give it to me. I'll try it. And Lion said, okay, and Rabbit grabbed that whisker, and you know what happened. As soon as Rabbit grabbed that whisker, she ran off as fast as she could, and she was really fast. And so even though Lion chased her, Rabbit got down into her burrow before Lion could catch her. And she wasn't Lion's breakfast that day. Next thing you know, she's looking for Eagle. Eagle, same thing. Could I have one of those feather? If you just wipe one of those feathers all over it'll be magic and it'll be 2 of me. You can eat 2 of me instead. Eagle was skeptical. Rabbit convinced her. She plucked the feather. She tried it. Didn't work. Let me try it. And she ran right away. Now, later that day, after she'd escaped both Lion and Eagle, she brought the feather and the whisker back to Earth Spirit. She said, please, Earth Spirit, you promised. And Earth Spirit said, look, you've shown already, though. You can outrun them. You can outsmart them. Why do you need to be something different than what you are? And she said, please, you promised. And Earth Spirit kept her promises. So she made Rabbit grow big and big until Rabbit was the size of an elephant, as tall as a giraffe, as strong as a rhino. And as soon as she was, Lion and Eagle spotted her because she was so big. How could they not? And they started to chase her. She looked like not just 2 meals, but dozens of meals. She looked so tasty. And so she saw them and she started to try and run, but her big floppy feet were she was like a baby donkey, and she was flopping all over the ground, and she was going to get caught, and she said, please let me go back to being me. And they, Earth Spirit shrunk her back down, and she escaped. Shrunk all of her, that is, except for those big floppy ears that stayed to this day. So she could hear wherever those animals that might want to eat her were coming from. And now I hope that if you ever have that idea that you want to be something different than what you are, can remember there might be a gift in who you already are that's even better than what you could change to be. Will you join me in singing our children out to their celebration chapel? We're going to go on down the center aisle, and let's rise in body or spirit while we sing today. Here we go. We're going to sing the Chalice Camp song. I'll sing a line, you sing it back. It's a blessing you were born, and it matters what you do, what you know about God is a piece of the truth. Let the beauty you love be what you do, and you don't have to do it alone. I invite you to take a deeper breath, to settle more deeply into your seat, to feel your connection down to this good, this beautiful earth. You can be anything you want to be. The sweet and earnest lie sours as life's truer flavors are tasted. I'm so glad no one ever tried to tell it to the lupin or the California poppy that are springing together along the hillside, purple and orange so utterly right together against the fleeting green grasses. Can you imagine if God had said to the lupin and poppy seeds scattered amongst the rocky crags, "You can be anything you want to be"? And then suddenly the hills were polka-dotted with the showy rose bush here and a banana tree there, each seed setting off to pursue a dream without a care for who it is or where it belongs. Oh, how I wish to be true to the seed of myself. God of limitations and specificity, Spirit of life that is revealed in the shape and length of our toes, in the colors of the hairs on our arms and the direction they curl, in the rhythm and shape of our thoughts. Teach us to celebrate all we cannot do. Remind us there is a blessing in each thing we will never become. And when the world shows us all we cannot save, all we cannot do, all we can only grieve, let us find ourselves still on sacred ground, on a holy hillside, holding the seeds of ourselves exactly as we are, in exactly the right place to shape the only life we can grow. May we grow as we rest together in this quiet, in this stillness. In this community of witness and care, we hold one another through the seasons of our lives and lift up those joys and sorrows among us. Today with Ray Westergaard and several church members, many of us saddened to hear that Susan Singh died on May 8th. Susan, who was a longtime Unitarian Universalist, a member of UUCB, and a former board president at the Berkeley Fellowship. Her presence will be missed at our Humanist Connections and Aging with Grace groups, especially her outspoken honesty. With Marta Toby. my quirky force of nature brother Peter left us unexpectedly this week. The world is a grayer place without him. Sylvia asks, having a brain scan Tuesday, please keep me in your thoughts. Thanks. Someone offers gratitude for the beauty of the community of UUCB. I always remember Thich Nhat Hanh talking about every cell phone being a meditation, a mindfulness chime. That was an especially gripping one. Katrin shares prayers of comfort, ease, and safety to all those impacted by violence in this world. And prayers that those acting out this violence be awakened to the suffering they caused others and also themselves. And may we all reflect on how we can bring more peace into our hearts and into this world. For all that we have named and all that yet remains in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts, may we know that what we hold here is held in the loving embrace of this community. And by a love beyond all naming, beyond all knowing, a love that cannot and will not let us go. May it be so, and amen. Let's stay seated as we sing together once more. May ours be a religion.
Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere, its temple all space, its shrine the good heart, its creed all truth, its ritual works of love.
Phil Hansen is an artist who wanted nothing more than to perfect pointillism. I always want to throw an extra syllable into that word. Pointillism, making all the dots that turn into one big picture. He wanted nothing more than that, and so he practiced day after day after day, making lots of little dots, until in the midst of art school, all of that effort on doing the exact same thing over and over with his hand and wrist caused him to develop nerve damage, and his hand began to shake. And he couldn't draw dots any longer. He went to a neurologist finally, and the neurologist said, yes, this is permanent nerve damage. That tremor is never going away. but said something that really landed for Phil. He described in his TED Talk about a decade ago, he said that the neurologist told him, "Why don't you try to embrace the shake?" And so he did, and he started experimenting with ideas about making art he never had thought of before. He started with larger scales and bigger materials. He went from a very simple approach to wider horizons, painting with his feet, burning a 2D image onto a 3D wood sculpture. As he began to play with more and more possibilities that this new limitation had forced him into, he concluded, yes, as many artists know, embracing a limitation can drive creativity. He started asking himself new limiting questions, not just the shake, but what if I could only create with $1 worth of supplies? Ended up with a magnificent mural across 30, 60 Starbucks cups. What if I could only paint on my chest? Layer after layer of painting that came up. What if I could only paint with karate chops, he asked. He ended up injuring himself yet again. You can tell he's kind of an extreme artist. But this idea that embracing a limitation can drive creativity, I think it's one, whether it's artistic pursuit or any part of our lives, that can open those wider horizons. I have to tell you, my wife Caitlin, at her work at teaching theater at Berkeley High, she's so excited that the theaters are going to be shut down for 2 years. They're going to renovate the theaters at Berkeley High, and she won't be able to use them at all for 2 years. The kids are going to have to perform elsewhere, and this limitation just thrills her. Because they're going to have to get creative. They're going to think in new ways and imagine, what is theater without this normal constraint? The way I remember first thinking about this in my own artistic process was as in movement and dance, that if one is improvising dance, as I did for many years with Interplay, as I've told you about, you can improvise more freely and creatively the more stable and solid your platform is. The more the platform, the shape under you is strange or moving or changeable, the more cautious and less free your movements are. Remember when I would lead those one-hand dances we've done a couple of in the Vespers services here? 10, 12 years ago, there was one woman who would do the most incredible one-hand dances. She was, by far, of anybody in the room, the most invested, the most present to what was going on. And I don't know the details, but it was clear she had some kind of palsy in her hands. And they kept this shape no matter what she did. And yet it was so clear that through her dance, a teaching of Interplay landed home for me, that within any set of limitations, there are still infinite possibilities. Within any set of limitations, there are still infinite possibilities. So I wonder, are there constraints in the givens of your life that you've learned to embrace? Or are there perhaps constraints that you have resisted, maybe still resist? This might seem like an odd example, but the thing that came to my mind I was thinking about in middle school when I was learning about the depths of the ways Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela, those are the two we were talking about at the time, had transformed movements and inspired people. And I wanted to be like them more than anything in the world. That was 7th grade, Marcus. That was like, I couldn't imagine something better to do with my life than emulate leaders like that. And then I was really quite sad to take in and realize that because of my social location, which is not a source of a lot of limitations, but because I'm a white man, I would not be leading revolutionary movements from this body. I could maybe do my part to support them, but I wasn't going to be King or Mandela. That was a hard constraint, a hard limitation to take in for 7th grade, Marcus. But this is the truth of all of our lives. We are not self-created, but begotten. I remember, when we first read the Bible cover to cover in high school, I had this great Bible as literature class, and getting through those pages of begats, right? So-and-so begat, so-and-so begat, so-and-so. I mean, just on and on and on with the begat. But that, I think, is the gem there, is we are begotten. Not self-created, but begotten from a lineage that shapes and constrains who we are and what we can become. And so a challenge for us, my freedom-loving Unitarian Universalists. Have you ever heard it said, maybe you even said it yourself, Unitarian Universalism, we can believe whatever we want. This hallmark of our colloquial theology that has led us astray, I think, over and over. That's the idea that liberalism, that liberal religion's about being free from, right? That free from the creeds and dogmas, the rigid ecclesiastical hierarchies, freedom from confining limitation. But I think there's a cost to all that freedom from. And this is what I mean, that when Henry was being born, before he was born, we were working with midwives out in western New York, who mostly worked with people out in the country, worked with Amish. They were really lovely. I'm telling a couple of stories about them that are not so flattering, but I loved them. One of them, she had been a member of a Unitarian church at one point. And then she said, well, we concluded, Unitarians, they won't tell you what to believe, and they won't be there for you when you need them. Yeah. It's not my experience, but I know what she's talking about. Because what is it that holds us together in this tradition so fully embraces this way of being together that makes sure that we are there for each other when we need it? It's not our freedom of belief. We are called by some historians the wing of the Reformation that never stopped reforming. And I think it's a good thing, this embrace of the living tradition, all of the commitment we have to change, but there is a danger in it that we lose track of some primal bonds of connection, some constraints at the core of what it means to be a people. David Brooks was actually writing about that this week in his column, and I have to say, if you had asked me about 15, 20 years ago if I'd be quoting David Brooks from the pulpit, I didn't want anything to do with anything he had to say, but it's been fascinating to watch his faith journey these last several years since Trump was elected. But this week he said, when societies become liberal all the way down, he read a book about liberalism, and he's thinking about himself as a liberal. And he said they neglect a core truth when they become liberal all the way down. For liberal societies to prosper, they need to rest on institutions that precede individual choice. Families, faiths, attachments to a sacred place. People are not formed by institutions to which they are lightly attached. Their souls and personalities are formed within the primal bonds to this specific family, that specific ethnic culture, this piece of land with its long history to my people, to that specific obedience to the God of my ancestors. These life-altering attachments, he said, are not usually individually chosen. They are usually woven from birth into the fabric of people's beings, into their traditions, cultures, and sense of personhood. And so he articulates the way that unmoored liberalism, that liberalism we hear in the sweet but false sentiment given to our children, you can be anything you want to be. That unmoored liberalism has threatened those more primal bonds, and that's what makes an authoritarian reactivity appealing. It says the authoritarians tell their audiences that the liberals want to take all that is solid, from your morality to your gender, and reduce it to the instability of a personal whim. He says that's the line that the authoritarians are giving that is so effective when in a liberal society those more primal bonds feel threatened. But the truth is, and we're just not good at talking about it, but we do have something more primal that we're working at here, a way of understanding the sacred that is not reactionary, doesn't seek to return to an imaginary better time or pretend that our cultural inheritance has not been shaken or fragmented by the dislocating forces of modernity and colonialism, but instead offers a way of making meaning in the face of life's biggest questions that embraces that fragmentation, that embraces pluralism and mixity. But man, I struggle to talk about it in the kind of simple terms that David Brooks is suggesting we need to in order to be able to out-communicate the authoritarians. So getting closer to Henry's birth, another of the midwives is having a conversation with Henry's mom, and she figures out that we're ministers, and so she has to ask more about that, and she wants to know what this Unitarian Universalism thing is. And so Henry's mom, she explains, well, Unitarian, which means I believe in one source, that we're all connected, and then knowing someone she was talking to who used God language, she said, Universalist, which means I believe in a loving God who wouldn't send anyone to hell. And the midwife took a sharp breath in. She said, well, I'm a Christian, which means I believe in a loving God too, but he has standards. Well, as you can imagine, Henry's mom was speechless. And later, after some reflection, we crowdsourced a response. It was one of those moments you just want that right comeback to say, and you don't have anything, so you need to go find it afterward. And so we crowdsourced a response from our Facebook friends, most of whom were UU ministers. And so finally we had the response that hadn't come in the moment, the line you just wish you could go back in time to deliver. Well, she would have said, in our tradition, we have standards for God. We have standards for God or for any ultimate truth. And these standards, these are the boundaries we establish in order to make room for it all. In order to make so much freedom possible, we define a space that excludes some possibilities. They are the constraints that give our freedom its potency. And this is how contemporary theologian Rebecca Parker talks about it. She says there are 4 boundaries 4 walls we create where UU theology says no in order to allow for a deeper yes. First, she says you can hold a view that there is no God, or that God exists, or that there are many gods, but you cannot hold the view that God is the all-powerful determiner of everything that happens, such that there is no exercise of human freedom. Unitarian Universalism is clear there is some measure of freedom accessible to every living being given in the nature of things. Second, she says you can define salvation, healing, and wholeness in many ways, but you cannot hold the view that there will be an ultimate separation of the saved from the damned, by which the good are rewarded with eternal bliss and the damned are punished with eternal suffering. Our tradition is clear: all souls are of worth. Third, she says you can be devoted to a specific religious practice, such as Christian prayer or Buddhist meditation or pagan ritual, but you cannot hold the view that there's one religion that encompasses the exclusive, final truth for all times and places, not even Unitarian Universalism. We are confident that revelation is not sealed. And finally, she writes, you can see this world as tragically flawed, wondrously gifted, or both, but you cannot hold the view that salvation is to be found solely beyond this world. In some life after death or a world other than this world, our UU faith is clear that the ultimate is present here and now. Some measure of freedom, salvation, healing, and wholeness that is for everyone. Revelation is not sealed. The ultimate is present here and now. Unitarian Universalism's creativity, freedom, allows for wildly different expressions of this faith. And that's a beautiful thing. But these constraints, these limitations are what give the freedom its potency. We're not a franchise where beauty is found in the alikeness of every model. You don't go to congregation like subway to subway expecting to find exactly the same sandwich being served. We are unique organisms evolving in relationship with one another, creative projects, each congregation dancing on the same firm foundation, using the same constraints. This is the genius of congregationalism, this idea that is fundamental to who we are and that we will exercise in just a little while when we have our congregational meeting. Congregationalism that creates a stable structure with freedom to change and grow. Let us, in our lives together and each our own, be constrained. Not by any particular articulation of belief, but by an understanding of the sacred that makes room for it all. Let our creativity be unfurled by knowing there is a solid, unmoving foundation supporting us, and that through its limits, we can let our religious imagination run wild. May it be so, and amen.
We invite you now into the spiritual practice of generosity. Instead of passing the plate, you can give electronically by scanning the QR code on the back of your badge, or you can put a cash or check donation into the envelope that you will find in the back of the pew in front of you. Write your name on it and mark offering plate or pledge, and then put it into the donation box beside the fountain in the atrium as you leave the service. Each week, half of the offering plate is shared with a nonprofit Good Neighbor organization recommended by our wonderful Social Justice Council. Thank you so much for practicing generosity with UUCB and with our good neighbors. Offerings of any amount are accepted with gratitude. The good neighbor for this month is Yes, Nature to Neighborhoods. In partnership with nature, Yes nurtures leaders who champion the well-being of our community. Their vision is for Richmond youth, adults, and families to lead healthy, connected lives, motivate change in their neighborhoods, and inspire a safe, thriving community. Thank you. Please join me now in dedicating our offering. We dedicate our offering and ourselves to the mission of this congregation, to create loving community, inspire spiritual growth, and encourage lives of integrity, joy, and service.
Buenos dias. Good morning. I'm Charis Domador, your Connections Coordinator. If you're new to our church and you'd like to learn more, today we're hosting our monthly newcomer Q&A in the fireside room. So I invite you to come have lunch with me, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have about the church. To find out what's happening in the life of our community, you can always check the news link on the homepage of our website, where you'll find our weekly email newsletter, The Week Ahead. And it includes a list of activities, announcements, and contact information. This week, I want to especially lift up the following. Right after the service, and after you grab a bite to eat, we'll have our annual celebration and planning congregational meeting. Our board member, Helen Toy, will hand out voting cards at the entrance of the sanctuary before it starts, and childcare is available. This coming Friday and Saturday, the Freestone Committee is hosting an art sale. There will be pottery, paintings, figurines, and other artifacts. You can find more information on our website. On June 2nd, come watch Roads and Rolls of Comedy. It's 6 comedy play performances, a fundraiser for our music committee. And on June 8th, we have our worship retreat, The Art of Worship, a day-long retreat to help build a community of virtual artists. More information is on our website. Now let's rise once more in body or spirit and join in singing our closing song. Thank you.
Sometimes in our lives we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride if I have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let you. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can carry, I'm up on the road, I'll share your load. If you just call me, lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'd understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on.
Do you reach out a hand or lean on a shoulder and let us be connected? Connected in this community, whether you are a quick and clever rabbit or a big and strong elephant, Whatever it is your unique limitations have brought to this moment, to this community, may you know we are all blessed by them. And may we together be blessed in our clarity of who we are, so that we can shine out that love on a world that so badly needs it. May it be so, and amen.